I don't want to assume that everybody knows who I am, but I'm Rhonda D'Ambrosio. I've worked in the recruitment industry for nearly 23 years. I've done all manner of jobs. I've run my own business. I've run other people's businesses. But the last 7 years for me, in one respect or another, have been very much focused on mental well-being and mental health in the workplace. And for me, and my kind of area of what I say expertise, or my sweet spot, is how our quality of thinking and how our flexibility of mind can really impact the choices that we make in the way in which we can respond to emotions. Because if we can nail that out, we are in, we're already halfway there. What I do now is I work with organisations on wellbeing strategy. The stuff that I've been developing in the last 6 months, well, all manner of, you've heard me talk, you know that I go out and I'm a massive advocate for understanding how well-being in the workplace should be supported to improve not only people's lives, but also business, right? Because there is a business case that says if we look after our people, discretionary effort improves, and that does impact the bottom line. As part of Ebenable, what I've been working on is an app around personal development and professional development, specifically for recruitment, to give recruiters sort of a good lead into all sorts of professional learning. But what makes it quite unique is that there is also a wellbeing and a mental health element. So there are tools and wellbeing activities within that that can support people's resilience. So that stems from the KITE program. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. The KITE program is an organisation in New Zealand that was born from a maternal mental health point of view. So the reason kind of KITE recruitment came into iteration was because we were thinking, well, if you look at the adoption rates for learning and you look at what business owners and business leaders are trying to achieve, they want people to take personal accountability, and they're also struggling to maybe support them from a well-being perspective. Some businesses want to do more than an EAP, an employee assistance programs, and other people want their people to be part of looking after their own development. So this is kind of how KITE recruitment was born. But the exciting stuff, the thing that I'm really pleased about right now, is that all of the kind of work that I've been doing behind the scenes for the last few years has culminated in the launch of Mental Health and Recruitment, which is my not-for-profit that for me is about driving change in the recruitment industry. It's about understanding the challenges that every single person out there faces, and understanding that as an industry, recruitment is not the exception to the stats. Mental health and common mental health disorders affect us all. We all have mental health in the same way that we have physical health. And, you know, there is a problem in the industry. It's very much in the way that these situations have been managed. And also from the conversations that I've had with leaders over the last 2 or 3 years, you know, how they approach it and how they actually support their people, but also do that whilst looking after the needs of the business. So, you know, mental health and recruitment is about, you know, driving change and removing the stigma and the discrimination, normalizing the conversation, and, you know, moving us from an awareness piece around what it is to actually decisive action that I hope will lead to cultural change. You know, people weren't looking at spending money on development. They were looking at how do we help our people? How do we manage our workforce? And actually, there were so many leaders that may not have had mental health or anxiety or anything like that on their radar that by being in lockdown, I think understood that this was an issue. And what happened was Hannah at KITE, she said to me, look, I know we're trying to get KITE recruitment sort of out and launched, but would you consider being part of a project team to build another resource, a resilience through adversity program to support during COVID, as part of some resilience experts in New Zealand, a very well-known professor who was voted one of the NHS's top influential people a few years ago. You know, will you come in, will you help us create the program and get KITE support to market? And so for me, that's one of my biggest achievements to date. And that was prior to launching Mental Health and Recruitment, because even though we couldn't offer it for free, it was about trying to do something and get the information out there to prevent overwhelm. You know, what we know is that, you know, when these situations happen, when we are out of control, when you have Google where you can search for all types of things, there is so much information that in itself can start causing anxiety. So we thought that by breaking it down into sort of personal well-being, social well-being, you know, remote working, you know, leading a business from home and having to also factor in parenting and all of that, that was a good use of time. So that was probably my first project during lockdown. Actually, it's okay. I always say, you know, you have to look after yourself, after your needs before you look after any of those around you. And kind of the way in which you start by doing that is by being compassionate to yourself and not beating yourself up or giving yourself a hard time because you might be feeling that way. Yeah. But then maybe analyzing, well, what is it that's making me feel a little bit overwhelmed? You know, mine was too many people. It was like too many people. I just want my dogs. And understanding, well, okay, so does that mean that I just need to ease myself back into it? You know, I still haven't got on public transport, and I'm thinking, so when am I going to have to do that? I've got some clients that want me to go in, but I think it would be really remiss of me to say book myself in even for 3 days a week in terms of getting on public transport, doing the tube, doing the train. I don't think that will be good for me and where I'm at right now.
What I found actually quite tricky working from home all the time is the lack of anything different happening. How do you get more variety into it, and how do you stop yourself getting into that mental I've got nothing different?
I think it's again, you know, it's a really good question, and it will be different for every single person. But you know, for me, I'm such a big advocate of growth mindset and of challenging ourselves and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. And I think it's understanding, you know, am I feeling not bored, but, you know, it's the same old stuff because I'm putting myself in my comfort zone because I feel safe. So if you can all imagine that you've got these 16 compartments in the Titanic, and what's happened is she's got hit by, well, she's hit the iceberg, massive trauma down the side of her, 300-foot gash, and then the water has started coming in. So it started flooding one compartment, then it spilled over to the next, then the next, then the next. They said it wouldn't go any further, but it did. It went into the 5th, and she started to go under. I relate this to how we manage our lives and all the things that we're dealing with at any one moment, whether it's our job, whether it's our health, whether it's our kids, whether it's our partner, whether it's our dogs, whatever it is you're dealing with. And when we look at what we're dealing with, we will be emotionally either flooded or not flooded to any degree. What I'm understanding about, you know, marketing and about the branding element is that people want to connect with you. People want to see what it is that you're doing, and they want to understand that authenticity piece. So, you know, let's go back to kind of what Rob was talking about that day at APSCO. You know, if you can be open and honest with people, and if you can share with them, you know, what it is you're doing, you know, what's going on, I think, you know, for me, it's about getting that message out there in the best way possible.
Do you know, it's natural light and go for it. It really is. The authenticity is so important. You can't, you know, all you need is a mobile phone, you know, and you can record that video, and if you stutter, actually it makes it more endearing. If you mess up your lines, then yes, you're human, we can relate to you, and I think that's the key. Now, don't get me wrong, to have properly produced video is important as well, but I think that kind of the day-to-day, off-the-cuff kind of stuff, and there's all, you know, there's so many apps and things out there. It's really accessible to be able to produce your own content now in that way. LinkedIn Live, if you haven't got access to that already, it seems like they're speeding up the kind of people getting access to that. So I'm hoping from next week we'll be able to live stream this on LinkedIn Live as well, instead of just on Facebook.